Shall I start again?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Welcome to Rugby Borough Council's Licensing and Safety Committee meeting this Tuesday, the 28th of November. I am Councillor Julia Barrow, Chair of this committee. The meeting is being web streamed to the public through the Council's YouTube channel. During the meeting, if you wish to speak, please use the push to talk button on the microphone in front of you. This will allow the camera to pan in your general direction. Before we begin the formal agenda, I am obliged to read out the following fire notice. There is no fire drill scheduled in the building this evening. If the fire alarm sounds, then please could I ask that you make your way out of the building, down the main staircase and out of the main doors of the Town Hall, and congregate at the entrance to Caldecott Park. An officer of the council will give instructions on when it is safe to return to the building. Moving on to the agenda, the first item of business is to confirm the minutes. So to approve the minutes of the meetings held on the 11th of July 2023 and the subcommittee general held on the 6th of September 2023. Could I have a proposer, please? Thank you, Councillor Garcia. And a seconder? Councillor Roodhouse, thank you. Second item is apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies for absence?
Are you going to take a vote on? Did you take a vote? No. Oh, you don't. No, apologise.
Okay. Second item is apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies for absence from the Democratic Services?
No, Chair. Everyone is present.
Thank you. Moving on, declarations of interest. To receive declarations of non-pecuniary interests as defined by the Council's Code of Conduct for Councillors. I myself need to declare, by virtue of the fact that I have a street trader in my area, a non-pecuniary interest.
Yeah, I need to declare as well because my ward covers part of the town centre where the traders are.
Thank you, Councillor Roodhouse. Pecuniary interests as defined by the Council's Code of Conduct for Councillors. And a notice under Section 106, Local Government Finance Act 1992, non-payment of community charge or council tax. So we have one item on the agenda this evening, the adoption of the street trading policy and fees following consultation. Members will remember that we recommended that this consultation went out and it then subsequently went to full council and was sent out for consultation. We are here today to consider the responses. So if I could ask the officer to present the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So street trading is governed by the Local Government Miscellaneous Provisions Act 1982. The Act defines street trading as selling, exposing or offering for sale any article in a street. Following the adoption of Schedule 4 and the consultation period, the Council is now in a position to look to approve the street trading policy and fees for adoption. The adoption of a street trading policy will enable the Council to regulate street traders in a consistent, fair and proportionate way. There is need for a common set of rules which should apply to all traders. The policy will achieve this and set out criteria and guidance for applicants. The policy explains the application requirements, which gives clarity and transparency to applicants with an early indication as to whether their application is likely to be granted or not. Furthermore, a positive economic impact will come from regulating street traders as the Council are able to issue licences or consents for locations which will promote neighbouring businesses rather than create unnecessary competition. The comments received during the consultation period can be seen at Appendix E, along with the officer responses. These inquiries mainly relate to the clarification of what existing traders will be required to do should the policy be adopted. There were no direct objections received in relation to the policy or the fees. Therefore, it be recommended that the street trading policy and fees, as set out in Appendices A and B of the report, be approved for adoption on a date agreed by the Licensing and Parking Manager in consultation with the Chair of the Licensing and Safety Committee. The licensing and parking manager proposes the date of information to be the 15th of January 2024, should the policy and fees be approved for adoption at this meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Emma. Could I thank officers for their diligence in preparing this policy, their work with the legal officers and the finance officers to get us where we are today. Are there any questions, members?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, how does the annual fee compared to what they were paying rent with Rugby First? How does that compare? I couldn't see where there was a comparison.
Thank you. So I don't know what
Oh,
Rugby First
okay.
were charging the street traders rent, but our fees are based on cost recovery, so it's based on predictions of officer time and those sorts of
I was
things.
just thinking if it was
yeah.
a lot more, it might discourage them. And do we not want to encourage people into the town centre?
No, so I do believe that our fees are less than what Rugby First were charging, but I don't know the exact figures.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Swift-Arthur?
Thank you very much. What about, there was a consultation on this, so what number of people responded? And what was it, consultation response?
Thank you, Councillor. All of the responses are set out in Appendix... Sorry. So all of the responses are set out in Appendix E, and then the officer response is also... So all of the responses received are contained within the report.
It's on one page, you talk about 25, I think. Council may at any time vary the conditions of a street trading. Are we talking about reviewing the policy? Will it be reviewed in this sense? If it's going to change, then we have to review it. And what's the time scale for this?
Thank you, Councillor. So, yes, this is a new policy that we're adopting. So, if the policy is approved for adoption, as we begin to implement the policy to street traders, if we realise that certain aspects of the policy aren't working, then this will be reviewed as and when required. In terms of timescales, obviously we'll need to review the policy, bring it back to committee and follow the process, but it will be reviewed if necessary.
There will be consultation again then.
If that's what the legislation requires,
If you're
then
reviewing
that's
the
what we will
policy,
do.
they ought to be consulted again.
Yes.
Anyone else? Oh,
yeah,
Councillor Roses Robinson.
Oh, sorry. One of the consultation responses noted that the amount that we're asking is quite a lot to ask in one go. I haven't seen any kind of response to that to indicate why the decision isn't one fixed annual fee and why not a monthly fee. So just wondered about that.
Of course, thank you, Councillor. The fees were worked out on a cost recovery basis with finance, and it was an annual fee that we based the charges off, and it is a fee that's payable once the licence has been granted. So there isn't an option for to split that cost monthly.
Could I ask why not? Because if these are monthly ongoing, so my understanding is that the application fee is to cover the administrative burden of doing the application, and then the licence fee is for costs that are ongoing throughout the year. So I'd like to understand why, therefore, we can't then sort of in effect invoice for those costs that are going to be across the year to the trader.
Thank you, Councillor. This is just the way that we've worked out the fees. It's not something that we considered to do a monthly cost. It's just the annual cost that we've created on this for this licence type.
Can I just ask for legal services to come in?
I think when they were looking at the review of the policy, and obviously as members know that it was adopted last time we all discussed this, I think it was possibly administering it on an annual, you know, on a monthly basis. Sorry, can you not hear me at all? Oh, this is. I imagine that when it was, I mean, obviously members have all considered this, didn't you, in the last time it came before us, and it was this has been approved subject to these consultation responses, as you say. And all I can say is I think that that matter, I would imagine, is it to do with administrative costs of administering it on a monthly basis is potentially what the reason is that it's an annual cost. I presume, is that in line with other councils as well?
Excuse me, Chair.
Excuse me, just one at a time.
I did bring this up actually to Zulfi.
Okay, Councillor Garcia, if you could come in.
And he did tell me that if we were to do it in, even if it wasn't monthly, if it was 3 monthly or whatever, it would make the fees go up because of the administration of that and checking that the money had been paid. So they decided to keep the fees down.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else want to come in with any questions? No? Did you want to add anything, Legal Officer?
No, I think we've covered it if everybody wants to.
Right, I think we... Oh.
Hello, yeah, there's a few things that I would like to just draw attention to and just check, really. So on page 46 of the report, it's the impact assessment that I'm looking at. And the box is checked for no impact against impact on other providers or partners. There are, in the consultation response from Rugby First, there are some indications of impacts that they are concerned for them, which I think I would suggest ought to be reflected in the risk assessment and then any mitigation of those risks listed here. And it feels that we're not quite having a fully evidence-based discussion at the moment because we don't know what the market traders are currently paying for their rent on a monthly basis. So we don't know for certain if we're asking them to pay more or less. And it might be that they would rather pay on a monthly basis and pay a little bit more and pay the admin fee because they can't afford a one-off lump sum payment. So I think there are some risks within the consultation exercise that haven't been reflected on page 46 of that impact assessment, and neither have they been reflected on page 51 of the equality impact assessment. And from my point of view, I would rather see those things listed and dealt with under those tools so that we can make evidence-based decisions and contributions to the meeting. So looking at page 51, under stage 2 of the risk assessment, there is a requirement that as a minimum we must consider what is known about the population likely to be affected. So looking at that paragraph, the paragraph below, which should essentially cover that minimum requirement, says the report is for the Licensing and Safety Committee to adopt the street trading policy. So it doesn't give me any answer to actually what's required by the equality impact assessment. So my feedback is that I actually think we should have more information in those tools at the back end of this document in order to actually review the proposal better. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, obviously, if we look at the recommendation tonight, that isn't part of the policy that you're bringing up in that respect. I mean, we're just looking at, obviously, looking at the consultation responses. And then, obviously, it was specifically, if you look at what we've brought it back this evening purely because we think that the recommendation from the last meeting was a little bit unclear. So it says that it approves it, which you all, you know, clearly did, but then it just said that obviously if there was any, it uses the word if there was any responses, and then it uses objections. So just to get that cleared up. What I want to advise members and give you comfort is there have been no objections to the policy that you did adopt. It's just that we've had these responses that obviously you need obviously this evening then just to consider if you think that they had anything. So that's really where we are now and what we should really be considering.
So are you saying that we've put the policy out for consultation? We've asked for responses and we have not received any responses saying anything about the payment of the fees.
That's right. We've had no objections to the policy. All we've had is comments, which obviously the licence officer has responded to, and they're in the appendices. And that was what we were going to come back here to consider, if that's acceptable to members.
Councillor Garcia, were you wanting to speak?
Well, I don't wish to be rude, but there is definitely in some of the consultations queries about the fees and queries about the paying all in one go. So I don't really know what else to say actually about that, because I get that we've already approved the policy, but I don't really see why we're coming back to look at this if we're not going to take any notice of it.
Through you, Chair. No, I mean obviously if you see that as a you know as an objection rather than a comment, then that's obviously for members to discuss, and I wouldn't tell you any other way if that's what you feel it is. It's just that obviously we felt that obviously the comments that were made weren't objections, they were just comments on it and views. Obviously, again, through your chair, it was alluded by a previous councillor, is that obviously there is always the mechanism to review anything that you do approve anyway, any time, and it comes back to you. But obviously, I'll leave it open to members, really.
Councillor Srivastava.
Just what I was reading again. Consent for roaming street trading, 30 minutes limitation. Is it something we can implement? How will we, because why we are doing the 30? You said consent for roaming street trading, allowed no more than 30 minutes in certain areas. So is it something we can, when we apply, how we implement it, how we will enforce it?
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, so the roaming licence relates to traders such as ice cream vans. So we will be aware of when they plan to operate, where from, for how long, what times, what day of the week that they plan to be there. So we can enforce as officers, we can go and do an operational visit.
Something public will complain then if there is more than 30 minutes? What will the process of when we enforce it?
Thank you, Councillor. So in terms of the enforcement, there is a section of the policy that relates to what powers that we will have in terms of enforcement. And then obviously there is the section that relates to the revocation of licences. As long as it's within the public interest to do so, then yeah, officers will look to carry out enforcement.
Okay, so if I could just perhaps look at what we've spoken about. I've found the item about the fees, and it actually has come from Rugby First, hasn't it? It's the question about whether it could be paid in instalments has not actually been made by any individual street trader. It has been made by the business manager of Rugby First.
That sort of led me to believe, or led me to suspect, that they'd obviously been paying Rugby First monthly.
It does sound that way, but we haven't had a response from an individual street trader asking for that, and the response to Rugby First was payment in instalments, I should say, will not be available to applicants. This is the licence fee which must be paid prior to grant. I just thought I'd clear that up. Has anyone else got any further questions or comments? Are we ready to take a vote on this then, members? So those in favour of the policy being adopted and for the implementation date to be, I think it was the 15th of January, in order that everyone who's involved can be given the forms and taken through the process to make absolutely sure that everybody is ready for the 1st of April. Could I have a show of hands, please, those in favour?
Sorry, could you just go through that again? I'm not quite clear now.
Do you want to read the recommendation?
Shall I read the recommendation?
We've already approved the policy, we were just looking at recommendation.
The policy,
We were just looking at the...
we haven't yet adopted the policy.
We've not adopted it, right, okay.
So
we approved it last time, but it wasn't adopted, and now we're voting to adopt it.
Yeah, the agenda item is the adoption of the street trading policy and fees. So we've had the consultation, we now need to adopt the policy so that it can be implemented in the new year, ready for the next financial year, which will start on the 1st of April. That's okay. No, we need to be clear what we're voting on. Absolutely. So we have the recommendation to adopt the policy. Could I have a show of hands in favour, please?
8 and 9. So that's against those.
And those
against.
And those against?
2.
2.
And then no abstentions.
No abstentions.
That
is carried. Thank you, members. And actually, that is all of the business that was on the agenda this evening. So I thank you for your attendance. And can I ask for the live streaming to be